Yeah, my name is Nicholas Cooper. Right now I'm studying at BCIT, who is partnered with PFC to get all my pilot's licenses and ratings. In terms of how I started, I had my eye on BCIT and PFC as well for a number of years before I graduated high school. Um, I went for a fan flight with PFC probably 5 years ago now, and then I eventually decided to bite the bullet and go to BCIT, apply. I got in, and then I started my training back in May of 2023, and I'm actually supposed to be done tomorrow, which is exciting. We started with the PPL. Once the PPL was completed, we did our night rating throughout the fall and winter. Once that was done, we worked on time building, did all of our cross-country flights, and then CPL flight tests, CPL written. After that, it was multi-engine rating, instrument rating, so the flight test for the instrument rating, as well as the written. And then lastly, we just did the IATRA written. So a lot, but we got it all done. Well, tomorrow we have our last class for BCIT. I have a couple multi-crew course sims that I have to complete here still, so I'll be here throughout the next week or two, but after that I'm done, and it's at this point, in terms of my experience and everything, I would love to get on with a company there's a couple companies that I have my eye on, CanWest being one, SkyCare as well. A couple different companies that do charter services, cargo services, and eventually medevac services as well. Eventually, I'd like to find a company where I can move up within the same company and eventually end up on a multi-engine turbine aircraft doing medevac. One company that I'm looking at, to actually start medevac, you have to have 500 hours. But what they do is they have either smaller planes, whether that be single engine planes or multi-engine planes, but smaller scale, similar to the Senecas that we fly. They'll put you in the right seat usually of one of those, and they'll let you build your hours up. And then the reason why I'd like to have a company is that offers that progression is so I can go right into the next thing, right? So yeah, ideally I'd start on something smaller, build up my hours within the company. Once I have enough to move up, I would move up and just kind of continue that process for a few years. Most pilots always say as soon as you get up in the air, everything else just kind of disappears, you know? And that's really true. Once you're up there, all the stresses of life go away. You know, you're focused on what you're doing. It's beautiful. It's unique. Since I was a kid, I would go to the airport with my dad, and he'd have his pickup truck, and we go sit in the back of the truck and watch planes come in over us. And since then, it's kind of been in the back of my mind that this could be something that I could do. And eventually, I decided that, you know, sure, it's a big commitment, and there's a lot of hurdles that you got to jump through. It's a lot of work, but there's really nothing stopping me from doing it. So I decided eventually to bite the bullet, and I'm really glad that I did. I would definitely recommend it. BCIT, you know, there's the option of doing it privately, which I did consider, and there's the option of doing it through a program such as BCIT. And the nice thing about doing it through a program such as BCIT is it's all in one clear, easy to understand, easy to follow package that you don't really have to think about. For some people, having that structure in a program in their training is vital. But in terms of getting into the program, it's a bit of a process. First, you have to submit your application, which includes, you know, your passport, your Cat 1 medical, which you have to get beforehand, and then also like a questionnaire that you have to fill out, which is asking you questions about yourself, about what you did to, you know, prepare for this situation that you're getting yourself into, and it's an opportunity for them to see who you are and why you're choosing to do what you're choosing to do. If they like you, then they'll reach out to you and they'll offer you a multi-minute interview session, which is, for me, was a virtual interview. And they pass you along through a few different rooms with a few different people, and they ask you questions about decision making, about, again, what you did to prepare, or, you know, a multitude of different things that kind of give them an idea of who you are. And then if they like you after that, then they offer you a seat, and then you have a couple weeks to accept it, and pay your commitment fee, and then once you do, you're locked in. Night rating was kind of it's the first next step in flying, right? You get your PPL, and then it's like, okay, now what's next? And that would be night rating, and it's really exciting. When you're doing your PPL, you're constantly racing back to get back before dark, and now you're waiting for the opposite. So it's pretty cool. It's fun. I had some good instructors. One story that sticks out for me is our night island cross country is what it's called. So essentially, at night we go up with our instructor and we fly out to the seashell area. We cross the water over to Nanaimo and then down to Victoria and back across to Boundary Bay. It was really interesting being over the water at night as well, because you're so used to being able to see everything, and especially if it's a cloudy night and you're over the water, you can't really see anything. So it was really interesting to see the different perspectives and the illusions as well that come into play at night. It was also just a good memory to have with my instructor. There's two sides of it, right? There's the logistical problems that come into play when you're getting your license, which can be financial issues, and it is a lot of money and it is a big commitment, like I said. But my advice in that regard would be have all that laid out and figure it out beforehand. So once you're in the program or you're in the flight school and you're actually training, you can focus on your training. You don't have to worry about working extra shifts to pay for your next flight or pay for your tuition, or you can give the program the attention that it deserves, and you can likely succeed, at least have a higher chance of succeeding, if you have all your ducks in a row beforehand. In terms of flight training in general, if you love it, you won't have any issues. I always tell people that if you really love the flying and you love the environment of flying, you're going to be here all the time. You're not going to be able to get enough of it. Yeah, study with your friends. Especially when it comes to written exams or ground questions for flight tests. It's really helpful to have your friends there and quiz each other and bounce ideas off of each other and help each other out, which for me at least was definitely a big part in being successful through the program so far. BCIT definitely picked a good school. PFC does a lot of things really well, which compared to other schools you wouldn't get. With PFC it's consistent. There's no surprises. They have, from what I've experienced, a really good safety management system. All of the instructors are really helpful. They offer really great feedback. It's a comfortable environment, and you're going to be spending a lot of time here, so you want to make sure that that's the case. If there's ever been any issues, it's always been clear to us that we can just go talk to the people that we need to talk to, and we know who we need to talk to, and they've always been helpful, and I can't think of any situations where a solution hasn't been come up with for people that do have problems. Ever since I considered BCIT and I gone to info sessions, they've mentioned moving away up north, or doing something like that, something adventurous, and that's kind of always sparked my interest. So that's the route that I'm trying to go. Hopefully, I get hired somewhere.